Okay, hey everyone. I'm going to be talking today about my cultural interview for Health 425. And I'll start off by sharing my screen and this PowerPoint. So for my cultural interview, I decided to interview my friend Keisuke Fujioka. He lives in Tokyo, Japan. And the way that I met Keisuke is actually he came and stayed with my family in America as a Japanese foreign exchange student. So he lived at my house for a short amount of time, about 2 weeks, and we grew really close. Keisuke is the one pictured on the left here, and then this is our other buddy Hiroki. And we were really close with both of them and got to know them really well. And then as they both left back to Japan, it got kind of challenging for my family and I to keep in touch with them just because of the language barrier and the distance and time zones and everything like that. So we kind of fell out of contact with Keisuke. And then later in high school, I was actually called to serve my mission in Tokyo, Japan. And it just so happened that I served in the same area that Keisuke lived in Tokyo. And our apartments were actually only like 20 minutes from each other, kind of crazy. But because of that, him and I were able to reconnect while I was a missionary and kind of build our relationship again. And so later on, my family actually was able to go and visit him in Japan. This is a picture of us about 10 years later. So that's kind of how I know Keisuke. So I interviewed him. And this is a quick, just abbreviated list of some of the questions we talked about. So I asked him a little bit about how coronavirus has changed life for him, some of his biggest fears, some of his biggest dreams, and kind of just what the average day looks like for him in Japan. And the things that stood out most to me from his responses were actually a lot of things that we've talked about in class. So Keisuke talked about something that he was afraid of, or that he didn't like, I guess, is the kuki-o yomukoto. And basically that's the idea of somebody not being able to read the air if they're not Japanese, or if you are Japanese, kind of being able to read the air. You understand what people are saying even without them saying it. And so that's something that he didn't like about his travels to other countries, is he felt like people didn't understand him as well. Whereas in Japan, people really could connect and understand him, even if he didn't really say anything at all. He also talked about his biggest struggle with living in Japan, and something he doesn't like is the concept of face. And even though this is a Chinese concept that we talked about in class, it also applies to Japanese culture. So he talked about how he would always be trying to impress his peers and people around him to maintain his society or status in society. And he talked about how challenging that was for him. And then he also talked a little bit about how he's pretty introverted. He likes kind of doing things on his own, which really was something I saw living in Japan. And it's always been kind of, I think, something a lot of people tend to believe about the Japanese culture, is they're a little bit more quiet and introverted. And I definitely felt like that was true from this cultural interview. So it was really cool to talk to him again. I honestly consider Keisuke to be like family. So I was grateful for the chance to do this cultural interview. And those are the things I learned. Thanks.